If you can be gone for a week and everything keeps on running and you come back and you can just slide right back in, great. Think about it. What would happen if I was gone for 2 weeks? Like, could that be possible? If the answer is no, there's probably an opportunity for you to work on your systems.
Today's guest is Laurie Hollinger. She works with business owners who've hit a wall. As a fractional strategy advisor and coach, she's helped leaders get clarity on strategy, unlock their team's potential, and build systems that actually move the business forward. With expertise in retail, product development, and marketing, Laurie's all about sustainable growth with less strain and more momentum, helping established business owners design a decade that they can't wait to live into. Laurie,
Right?
thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, David.
As a icebreaker, I like to ask coaches now because nobody really grows up thinking, I want to become a coach. What did you grow up thinking you wanted to become?
I wanted to be, well, it depends on the age. For a while, I wanted to be a ballerina, but I wanted to have a career in fashion.
Okay. What inspired that?
I'm not exactly sure. I knew. There's pictures of me at 2 or 3 carrying a handbag. And I'm from a very small town in North Dakota, probably population 900. It wasn't like, it was a mecca for fashion. We had the Sears catalog and we had the J.C. Penney catalog, is
Mhm.
pretty much all there was. And I think I knew I just wanted more of that, whatever that was.
So your first jobs were in, I think it was as a buyer, correct?
It was.
Right?
It
So,
was.
so that love for fashion, that desire kind of drove you into becoming a buyer?
So when I was 15, I think, I had a 17 magazine. And I remember paging through that and telling my mom, I said, Mom, one day I am going to live in a place where I can buy these clothes. Like, that's how it started. I
Mhm.
just wanted to be in a place where I could walk into a store and I could actually touch the things I was seeing in a magazine. Then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I can go to college for this. And so once I got to college and found out that North Dakota State had a visiting student program with the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City, I knew what I was going to do. And so that's what got me to New York. And eventually, I was one of the lucky few who got recruited into the Saks Fifth Avenue training program. And I became a designer sportswear buyer.
How did you, that's New York City, that's Saks, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of, would you say like legendary?
Yes, I would say legendary. We were all, trained that we were serving the top percent of, people interested in this level of fashion, pretty much in the country, if not in the world, right? And we had a very important job, and that was to stay on top of trend and to serve those guests.
I'm kind of imagining Devil's Wear Prada.
There was a little of that
Okay.
at the beginning,
Okay. So,
just a little. I made a few tanning appointments for my boss. Yeah.
okay. So that's a very like interesting background because I feel like it's high fashion, it's dealing with high net worth individuals. I mean, fashion is kind of very artsy, but also very particular. But you went from being a buyer to becoming a coach. How did you go buyer to coach? What's that story?
So while buying is and fashion, right, is art, it's also business. There's a lot of big business within that. And what I found is that I loved both. I loved going to a runway show. I loved a really great spreadsheet. You know, my job as a buyer was they would actually trust me with $30 million dollars and say, how can you turn this into $60 million? Dollars? Buy the right things, market it the right way. So truly, it was very entrepreneurial. I spent 6 years in New York and then eventually moved closer back to the Midwest. I'm in Minneapolis
Okay.
and worked for a division of the department store division of Target Corporation. And during that time was when I really, I think, honed my business skills in
Mm.
terms of buying. And I did that until 2003 when the fortunes of department stores were on the decline,
Mhm.
right? The mall was the place to be, specialty stores ruled the day, and department stores were kind of going downhill,
Mm.
and work just wasn't fun anymore. And the one thing I did promise myself, even little tiny Lori, I promised myself that I realized early on you spend a lot of your life at work.
Mhm.
And whatever I did, it would have to be something I enjoyed. And so I've struck out to find the next thing I would enjoy. And what that ended up being was an opportunity to work with an entrepreneur who had a big vision. I entered a business, it was a very, very small business with a big idea. And that entrepreneur's goal was to grow to $10 million. And it was a product development business. I said, wow, this is the kind of challenge that I've done inside a large corporation. Let's try to do it small business. And so I spent the next decade plus a couple of years helping to achieve that goal. And what we did there specifically was originally started out selling marketing merchandise
Mhm.
to big corporations. And there are a lot of them here in Minneapolis. So that was fun. I got to see the inside of all different kinds of companies, consumer products companies, medical device companies, always with an eye to what kind of merchandise would speak for your brand. And then eventually we branched out and got into something we really loved, which was fashion, and started creating proprietary products for brands like Ulta, Sephora, Nordstrom,
That's
that
a
group.
very impressive list of organizations.
Yes. And really fun to work with.
So I understand where you're going. So you went from you did the fashion, you got into the taste for business, you realized you love the business side of things as well, and now you're working with this entrepreneur helping them build their business and you're helping and connecting with all these other organizations. So then where does the coaching come in?
So life has a way of going by really fast. And because I always said I would always do things that I loved, I think it seemed faster. But one day I woke up and I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to be 50. How did this happen? And what's next? I'd been working in helping to grow that small business for more than a decade.
Mhm.
And at that point in time, I realized I probably have one more rodeo, and I
Mm.
don't know exactly what I want that to be, but I know it's not this, what I was doing. And so I did a lot of introspection, a lot of reflection, and again, asked myself the question, what is it that lights me up? And what I came up with was I was having the most fun when I was helping to mentor and grow the people on that team.
Well, so you loved being a manager. You loved building people up, helping them to, go beyond where they were, right? To kind of lift them up, right?
Yeah, I did. And my title within that business was Director of Business Development. So every time I went into a new customer, every time we got a new employee, right, it was always, game on. Let's do this. Let's, rally everybody, talk about what's possible, get out there and do it. And when I decided I was going to be a coach, it was just based on, I'm like, okay, I feel confident that I can help to rally people. I feel confident that I know how to grow a business. So it should work to be a coach. And that's kind of how I went into it.
I feel like you kind of just when you see something, you jump into that when you realize that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do. The decision was a tough one because I did enjoy what I was doing. I had been doing it a long time, and still I felt like there was something more. And when I think about it now, that something more, it was my time to serve. So when I was at NDSU and I just had this idea that I want to be in fashion, there were two women who made that possible. It was my advisor and the director of the School of Home Ec, or I think, I don't know if it was director. And they were the ones who said, wait a minute, there's this thing you can do, and this is how you do it. And they took me by the hand and they showed it to me. They didn't do it for me. I was so appreciative. I carried that with me throughout my career. And I thought, boy, if at some point I could do that for somebody else, that's what I want to do. I want to give back because I felt like my vision had been realized. And now my job was to help people realize their vision.
That's beautiful. I love that. It's interesting because a lot of the coaches that I've spoken to, I think I want to say every one of them, like you don't become a coach because you're trying to make money. Most of the time people become coaches because they want to give back. They feel like they have more to that they can do outside of just their what their career has been up to that point, and they want to kind of give back to people, I guess. They want to build up people. And so it's just really I think that's why I love working with coaches because they're always willing to talk and to share and to support other people, right? It's just not part of like the makeup and DNA of a coach.
Right. It's incredibly fulfilling to have the opportunity to do this kind of work. And it's something that I feel like I could do for a long, long time. I wanted this last segment of my career to be something that I would never have to stop doing if I didn't want to.
If we're thinking about it as this is the last chapter of the business life, right? Of the work life, why spend it doing something you don't enjoy doing? So I'm curious because in the intro, you gave me this section about helping established business owners design a decade that they can't wait to live into. And I feel like that connects with what we're just talking about now, right?
Yes. So I have actually created a product called Design Your Decade.
Okay.
And the impetus for that, it's a 10-week mastermind that takes individuals through a process to help them forecast into the future and say, what would a great decade look like? It was the work that I did when I was at a place, I was at this crossroads and I didn't know which way to go. And it starts out with sort of an examination of values. I had to look at my values and say, what is meaningful to me right now? And what I've realized through my coaching work is that our values do change over time.
Yeah.
At the beginning of our careers and our maybe 20s, 30s, for sure, it's about establishing ourselves, creating meaning around the kind of work we do, the kind of things that we can achieve. It's that kind of work. As we get into our, if we have families, into our 40s, those sorts of years, our values shift, that might shift from, going to the gym 3 nights a week to sitting at the baseball diamond, right?
Yeah.
It's different, but you do that because your calendar is really a journal of your values. And when you get to, 50 and beyond, it's kind of like, what is my calendar going to look like? What are my values? How am I going to fill that time? And so, we start with values, we move into a wheel of life. Where are you right now? Are you living a level 10 life in 8 different segments? If not, which ones do you want to work on? That becomes part of your next decade.
Yeah.
And then the last part of the foundational work is really understanding what lights us up. And I do working genius assessments. Pat Lencioni has a wonderful model for the 6 types of working genius. And it really helps to identify the kind of work that we're naturally gifted and talented. And what the model shows us is that when we create a work life or a life that really utilizes our genius, we're happier, we're more energized, we're more fulfilled. Once we're armed with that kind of knowledge, then we can start to project into the future and say, okay, 10 years from now, how old am I going to be? How old is my spouse or significant other or parent or child going to be? Right? And what do we want life to look like?
Yeah.
And then we can reverse engineer, to say, okay, in 5 years, it's a little easier to imagine 5 years.
Yeah.
What do we want that to be in 3 years? And so what do I need to do this year to be doing what I want to do in 3 years. And all of a sudden, we have this vision for our life where we're not just being carried by the current, right? We're saying, boy, I really want to be there for, my kids when this happens. Or in my case, I was like, well, when I'm a certain age, my parents might need some help. So I'm going to have a career that I could set down or that could move if I needed to help them, because that was a big part of my values. And I've found so much joy in knowing what that design is. It feels very intentional.
I love that. I love it because the way world lives is so different. It feels like just one giant experiment. Like with all the technology that's out there, the different social media platforms, with the AI coming out, with the speed of the internet, the way we live today is so far from what any other generation has lived before. But I feel like we don't live with intentionality. We kind of live our life doom scrolling through life, right? Life kind of just happens around us or to many people. And then one day we look up from our phone and then we just like, where the heck am I?
Yeah, it kind of happened to me. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I was like, wait, I got to take stock. I got to figure out what's next. And, the traditional model, there was a traditional model,
Mhm.
right? You went to college, you got the good corporate job, you know,
You stayed there for 20 years.
you stayed there for 20 years, you moved to the next corporate job, yada, yada, that's all gone, right? And so when we don't have that, what is guiding us? Well, there are things that can guide us, right? It's our values and what we care about. And we can set those markers, and technologies will come. They'll change things. It's probably not going to change the fact that I want to be available to my parents when they need me, right? Like that is the marker that I'm looking at.
With technology, these are all just different modes, different tools, right? And they can help improve your life. It's not going to be like you're going to be 80 years old and you're just going to be like, this technology was so wonderful. Like, you're not going to be thinking about that. You're going to be thinking about what was the meaning of my life? What did I do? Did I spend it with the people who I really wanted to spend it with? Did I do the things that I felt were well worth it, right? Valuable? Did I leave a legacy that I would be proud of? But so many people, again, it's just like you can't just wander through life and then one day you wake up.
Right. And actually, the legacy was a big piece of it
Mhm.
for me. I designed for 10 years, but when I say I started with the end in mind, writing my eulogy was a big piece of it. So actually in the program, that is one of the exercises we do, or you can call it living legacy if
Mm.
eulogy is too creepy, but it's sort of the same idea,
Right.
right? Like, what impact do we want to leave in the world?
So one of my first guests that I interviewed, he was saying he tries to spend his time in the places where he can leave the most impact, like that impact footprint. And he tries to cut out everything else because
Mhm.
he's already lived a great life, but he also knows like how many more years do I have now as he's getting older intentionally? Where are the activities? What are the things that I can do that are just going to cascade out as much as possible? That domino effect.
Absolutely. And, I get the privilege of working with established business owners, people who have already have found a modicum of success in their business. And the very first thing we do is we look at a wheel of life and say, okay, what's going really great? What could be better? And let's create this purposeful design, not only for your business, but for your role in your business. You've worked really hard up until this point. Now, what do you want to do? And how do we design your business in a way that allows you to do that?
So let me ask for you, because you know all of this, and coaches often, you coach people through these things, but how do you apply the things you teach and you work with your own, clients with to yourself?
I think there's a term, it's called eating your own dog food.
Mhm.
So I try to make sure that anything I am suggesting, I have some firsthand experience with any assessments or books I would recommend or, programs. And also, I try to take my own advice, right? So, my core advice is that in order to grow with ease, specifically grow your business, you need three things. You need a clear vision, right? So I would ask myself, Laurie, is your vision clear? Do you know where you want to be next year, 5 years, 10 years? Do you have an empowered team? Every business owner needs people to innovate and create and keep up with what's going on, but they need to be empowered to do that. And so I'm like, am I surrounding myself with fractional support? Do I have the right accountant? Do I have the right kind of, I use a writer to help me with some of my writing, just like who do I need and are they empowered? Have I just given them the outcome, which is what I tell my clients, and then allow them to get the rest of the way, or am I micromanaging? Hopefully not. I don't know. I'll have to ask them. And then lastly, you need great systems because in order for me to spend my time talking with clients, which is what I love to do, I don't want to be spending a lot of time invoicing and marketing and doing all of the things that are required by a business.
How did you figure out the systems, the people, all of that? How did you navigate your way through that? How many years did you spend in corporate?
Corporates, 15.
Okay, so 15 years in corporate. So you're a subject matter expert. You were doing your job, your role. You became a coach, and now you have to figure all these different things out. So how did you go about doing that?
Well, I had that stint. I had another, 10 plus years in doing small business.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, I got to see a lot more of the interworkings. I had some idea of what it was that I would need when I started leverage my network. I went to other solopreneurs that I knew and it was like, who are you using for this? Who are you using for that? Who are you using for this? And to this day, right? It's still, I belong to a couple coaching communities and we're always asking each other how to do certain things better.
So groups and partnerships, talking to other people, getting referrals. Let's talk a little bit about your systems then, because I think that's a really big part. Because, right, you don't want to do the things that you love. You're designing that decade. You don't want to spend time, going through your books every week or every month. You don't want to be spending time building your marketing campaigns. So how did you build? So often coaches that I speak to, they rely heavily on referrals, which is fine. But the problem that they find with referrals is that it is unpredictable. And sometimes the work comes in waves because it's unpredictable. So how did you design your business, your marketing, so that, again, to lead that decade of life that you enjoy, you're not stressing out about where are the new customers coming into, and then how did you go about building your systems? What do your systems look like?
I am honest to a fault, and I will tell you, it is still a work in progress,
Yep.
right? It's always evolving. As far as marketing, I established a newsletter. As I said, I get help writing that. I outline it. I have a writer who helps me write it. And then we do 4 at a time. It gets turned into 3 LinkedIn posts. Those hopefully get scheduled, right? I really need a VA. That's part of the system. That is right now kind of what the marketing side looks like. Other than that, I have been doing some podcast guesting. Having conversations with interesting people like you is really fun. And so that is a great way, I think, for me to do some marketing. I am also a facilitator for a peer group community.
Okay.
So there are about 300 people in this organization. I lead a group of 9, but that is also a way for me to go and visit other groups and teach them a little something. And that helps me to market what it is that I do.
Okay.
So I would say as far as a system, that's it.
I'm interested to know when it comes to like the whole marketing thing, a lot of coaches have, I think a lot of people in general have like this feeling towards marketing where it's like icky, right? Like they don't want to do it. Did you have that for yourself or did you just?
I was comfortable with the general idea of marketing because it's been part of what I did my whole career.
Okay.
But there was always a brand. The brand was not me. Now that the brand is me, that ups the ick factor. But I have to tell you that as other coaches told me, it's something you just have to jump in and you get through it.
I think what's been helping me, especially this last year as I've been building my own business, has been that the way I think about marketing, like the whole like mental like perspective shift. Because I think like the way we experience marketing, we often don't like it, right? We get the
Right.
emails. I understand why people do it. Like LinkedIn, you get emails all the time. Some of these people are great. I know why they're doing it, but sometimes it's just like I don't even know you. Why are you even talking to me, right? And so because that's the way we experience it, we don't enjoy it. But I think what's helped me has been I know not everyone's going to like me or who I am or what I do. That's fine. I need to only find the people who, my tribe as the lingo, the people who actually like me. My approach now has been if I believe in the work that I do, it will actually genuinely help that business. If I don't talk about it and create visibility for myself and just tell everybody, hey, this is what I'm doing today. What are you doing? I'm doing a disservice to them because they might need me. And especially for coaches, because the stories, and this is something I want to go back to, is because the stories of coaches, the lives that they've changed, and it's not just their life, right? Because generally the people they work with have families or friends or organizations they're working with. And so that person, as they change and grow and develop, it has like this, again, a cascading effect, right? And so I feel like, especially for coaches, just talk about that change more often, what led to those changes, and people will find you and gravitate to that because I think we all want to be our aspirational selves, right? We would get there on our own if we could, but we can't hold up the mirror and just tell ourselves, be better. Even coaches, like most of the coaches, again, they all have other coaches that they talk to because they know they can't coach
Mhm.
themselves. And so when you speak about marketing and from that perspective, I think it just makes it easier to do it because now it's not about like, let me just sell you my stuff. It's this is how the impact that's being created. This is the genuine transformation that's occurring. And if you're looking for this, let's have a conversation, right? It's not, here, let me sell you my $100, $200, $1,000 coaching package. Let's talk about your aspirational stuff. Where do you want to be in 10 years? What do you want to be? Like, let's talk about that. And if that works for you, if you think we're a good match, let's work together, right?
Yeah, I'm the first one to say I'm not everybody's flavor, and I'm cool with that.
Well, I think
Um,
that's okay, right? Like, how many
yeah.
people are you really looking to work with in a year?
Well, that's just it. I wish I could work with more. That's one of the reasons I created the group coaching program was to create that bigger impact footprint,
Right.
right? And it's not about I want to bring more dollars in the door. It's about how big can my impact be? So it's not that many, right? Now the other thing I do is I do working genius workshops, and that is a way I can touch more people. But, one-to-one or group coaching, I don't know, 20 people a year?
20 people a year, if you say you do like a 10% conversion rate from book a calls, like, and that 10% is like very low. Anyways, so 20 people, that's 200 people a year you talk to get 20 clients, right? And then
Right.
get those 200 people on a book a call, you have to have 1,000 people to see your website or something that you're doing. Again, this is something else that a lot of coaches don't have are these like metrics of how many people have to visit my website for me to get a call, to get a customer, right? But again, it's not like you need to be talking to hundreds of thousands of people. You don't need to be a Instagram influencer doing a million. You
No.
just need 1,000, 10,000 people who are following you and looking at what you're
Mhm.
doing, especially if you're going for like more group coaching or like group courses, things like that. As you get bigger, you have more followers, you can start to bring more people into it. And then, it starts to snowball after some time.
You have to get the flywheel. I talk about this with my clients too,
Right.
is it just takes a little while. You just gotta stick with it. It's gonna be a little, a little, a little, and it'll catch.
Yeah. And it's just that it's that startup phase, right? Where it takes a little while to get the momentum going, but once the momentum gets going, now you really need the system because if you don't have the system to back up and to like manage the scale, that's the other problem that you have.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? And we all need people to help us.
Mhm,
Now, it's much easier to have someone help you if you can say, hey, here's my system.
mhm.
This is where you can plug in. I need you to do this piece. I need you to do the segment. Here, let me train you quickly. I
Yeah.
can make a quick video on how my system works,
Mhm.
right? So much easier than trying to think through, now, how did I do that last time? Oh, sometimes I do it this way.
Yeah. And you know what I've been doing is it's funny because I've been using a lot of AI tools to like create or like think through things. And sometimes in my conversation, as I'm thinking through a process or refining a process, I'll just be like, give me an SOP on what we just went through. Let me look back through this. And so it's just kind of, it's not about the technology, but that technology, if you learn how to leverage it, it helps a lot.
Absolutely. Makes everything go faster.
You didn't become a coach to be a marketer. But if you want to build a sustainable business, you need a system that works for you while you're coaching. Coach Ops is designed to help you go from unpredictable referrals to a reliable marketing system without it feeling pushy or salesy. If you're ready to build something systematic, visit kyber5.com/Coach Ops. It's a little scary because I feel like I want to have more computers so I can have specific conversations because I get lost in my windows. And then I'm just like, where did that window go? And then, but yeah,
You know what you mean? Too many windows, too
too
many
many,
tabs open.
yeah, you get just overloaded with all of it. I'm wondering, like,
It's a good idea to tell it to spit it back to you simply.
I like to think I'm smart, but sometimes I realize I'm really not that smart. And I just like this thing that I went through, I do it again and again, like the processes I go through. So it's like, I just need to do the process, define it, and then I can just hand it off. And
That's right.
again, like you don't need to write that process. You can just be like, okay, we went through this whole process. Tell me what was that SOP? Or you can just talk, transcribe, record your audio, talk to the thing, and say, this is what I usually do. Create my SOP for me to hand this off. But yeah, systems, when you can hand off that extra mental load of like, as you're saying, like scheduling your LinkedIn articles or LinkedIn posts, handing that off to somebody else to be like, okay, the writer finished. She's going to send this to us. Make sure to upload this and put it onto LinkedIn. Like, that's not super hard. That's a pretty close and simple.
I enjoy responding to the comments on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. So that's kind of the fun for me. I
Yeah.
don't really love writing them all the time. I don't love posting them, but I do love the interaction. So I choose to keep that. Now, that's also something that could go to the person who's scheduling, if they had the right communication skills to be like, my voice or ping me, right? If this
Mhm.
is one that I need to respond to.
Yeah. And that's like, again, a little simple process. It's like, okay, we just either ping you or you just create a Google Sheet, a Google Doc that says,
Mhm.
here are some comments that was left or that I didn't know how to respond to. Please respond to this, like, and drop a link in. It doesn't need to be super crazy. It's just very simple and straightforward. But I think like that mental load of, I have to remember this task of the article was done. I need to schedule this and post it. Being able to have somebody that you can trust and say, this is the process, this is the system, you're in charge. I think that being able to let that go and just trust the system is super helpful because that's just one thing you don't need to think about. I think, what is it? Like a lot of presidents end up wearing, like Barack Obama, he had like two suits. It's like black and blue. And they said it's just because it's one less thing he needs to think about.
And I would say whether you're a business owner who has a $50 million business or a $4 million business, or if you're a solopreneur coach, the litmus test for great systems is what happens if you go on vacation for a week. If you can be gone for a week and everything keeps on running and you come back and you can just slide right back in, great. Think about it. What would happen if I was gone for 2 weeks?
Mhm.
Like, could that be possible? If the answer is no, there's probably an opportunity for you to work on your systems.
For sure. And actually, as we're coming closer to the end of the year, I'm talking with a couple of coaches who are like, yeah, I'm going to go take 3 weeks off for the holidays. And it's just like, hopefully the VA can handle things. I'm going to try to finish training them in the last couple of weeks so that they can handle sales calls. I mean, I am curious though. What inspires me is the stories of the work that you've done, the lives that you've touched. Is there any story that comes to mind? Anybody who you've worked with that you think about that I did a good job there?
There's several stories that come to mind. I mean, there was a wealth manager who had a very defined audience that he was serving in the sports world. He business was starting to slow a little bit. His wife had a new opportunity, and it would require him to kind of pivot to a different sort of small business owner kind of audience. He's at a point in his life where his kids are kind of tween age, so there's a lot of pressure at work, a lot of pressure at home. And now it's like, oh my gosh, I'm mid career and I need to reinvent myself.
Mhm.
How in the world am I ever going to do this? You know, we worked together for, I think it was 24 sessions. It started last summer. He recently was just like, we've done it. I have a new customer. My pipeline is full. You know, I have a great offer. I feel good about giving to people
Yeah.
and I'm set. Like 6 months ago, I didn't know what I was going to do,
Mhm.
right? I felt like everything was just like everything I knew had been kind of was changing. And now I feel renewed. I'm
Mm.
back in the game.
I think when you're 80, 90 years old, right? Those are the memories that you're like, oh, I spent my time well. I did things that were meaningful, that genuinely helped people.
I know so.
I think that if you have stories like that, the more people you work with, you'll just keep collecting those stories, right? We can keep working the corporate jobs, we can just the idea of success, right? But I feel like it's that sometimes it's just so insular. Like you're not going to take that money with you, right? And if you can connect with and touch the lives of people to help them, not just the business owner, it's their spouse, it's their kids, because what happens to them in the workplace, that stress, it's very difficult to go home and not have that impact. And so, right?
When I started coaching, it's funny you should say that. When I started coaching, the kind of my North Star, I was like, if I can help a small business owner stay in the game and grow their business with greater ease,
Mm.
there's going to be better daycare pickups. Because I just remember, going to daycare, being frazzled. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, am I going to get there on time? Oh, and I finally get there, and I'd be like, okay, all right, get your boots, put them on. Okay, now we're back in the car. And then, I have this little person in the car seat, and my mind is now just snapped right back to the problem
Mm.
that I didn't get to finish before I left work
Mm.
that day. The conversation that I had to cut short because I had to run out the door. And I'm like, we can do better, right? Owners don't have to have that pressure.
Mhm.
The people on their teams should have an environment where they can pause,
Mhm.
change gears, and then we can have a conversation with
Yeah.
that little person in the back seat on the way home.
The more stress that I've been under, like maybe you don't sleep well, and then with your especially with your kids, unfortunately, and with like your family, like because you can't show that at work, so sometimes it just comes out at home. So again, like the work that you're doing when you're working with like small business owners, helping them to build, to strategize, to have those systems, then when they get home, all of that it's not there, so they come home lighter, happier, more energized, right? So I think that is wonderful, right? I think that's amazing.
It's good work.
I think good, meaningful work that helps the family, helps the business, helps the local economy, right? So lots of pluses
Right.
there.
Exactly.
Um,
So cheers to all the coaches.
I mean, honestly, like all the coaches I've spoken to, there's always, a handful of stories at least that comes to mind right away of lives that they've changed. You
I
know?
always say that I just ask the right questions,
Mhm.
right? They have all the answers.
Yeah.
Typically, anybody I talk to, I'm like, no, you have the answers, right? I just ask the right questions.
Different opinions on coaching and methodologies and what you should and shouldn't do, right? You are still there with them, helping them to realize and get to that point, right? If you ask the right questions or you guide them through there or you just straight out tell them, like you're still bringing them to the place that they need to be so that they can change, so that they can grow and develop, right? I really want to keep talking because I'm really enjoying this conversation, but we're almost already like an hour in. So before I end, I like to ask these two questions, which is the first one is what have you learned about yourself through this coaching, this process of becoming a coach, building your own business?
I don't know that I've learned as much as there's a lot of things that have been reinforced that I love to learn. That as hard as it is to, clarify my vision, empower my fractional team, and build my systems, I still enjoy it. That I'm in it for the impact. When I left a W 2 gig, I was like, oh, this is so scary. it's really not that scary on the other side. And I think that we have a huge capacity for empathy and emotional intelligence, and we can always keep building on that and doing better.
We can always do better.
Yeah,
The hard part is like knowing we can always do better, but then creating the right like roadmap of priorities to focus on one thing at a time.
for
Or
sure. Yep.
yeah, because I mean the flip side of that is I can always do better and then try to do better in like 20 different facets of your life, which is just way too many.
One a quarter.
The last question I'd like to ask before we close is what's one piece of advice that you'd give to someone who's just beginning their coaching journey?
I would say find a community. Find another group of coaches that you can bounce ideas of, that you can learn from. Every single coach I've met is incredibly generous in terms of sharing their resources, sharing what's worked, sharing what hasn't. So find your people.
Laurie, thank you so much. I really appreciated your time. Again, I loved having this conversation, and I think we should do it again if you're up for it.
Oh, I'd love to.
So, for everybody listening, if they wanted to find you and connect with you, where should they go?
You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Laurie, Laurie, Hollinger, Hollinger. You can certainly visit my website. I would love to see you there. That is hollingerco.com. And I would love for you to follow my Untapped newsletter. You will find the sign up there on my website.
Okay, wonderful. Laurie, thank you again. I've really, seriously, genuinely enjoyed this conversation today.
Thank you. I have too, David. Thanks for guiding us through it.
Have a good one. Want to stop guessing and start building a marketing system that actually fills your calendar? Head to kyber5.com/coachops and let's get systematic. That's it for today's episode. I hope you grabbed something useful you can actually apply in your business. If you did, leave a comment or share it with a friend. And hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you next week.